Let the sun shine. 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 What's up, baby?
What's happening? How you doing?
I'm good now.
Good to see you, bruh.
What's happening? How you doing?
You know, making it through these two pandemics.
Hey, and it's a real pandemic. Everybody's out on the streets of New York like ain't nothing happened. You know what? It's funny. It's a whole new energy back on the streets of New York. Like it's it feels very 90s right now.
What's that mean?
Like, you know, the people who really don't want to be here, don't really know how to be here, don't know New York. It's a very artistic, creative energy that's back on the streets of New York.
Oh, that's nice, man.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Everybody's talking about people leaving New York, but I'm like, I don't know about that.
No, right.
Yeah, you know, I'm seeing a whole nother different energy. So how's everybody tonight? We got the one and only C. Brian Williams, from the founder of Step Africa, with us. He's also the executive director of Step Africa. So welcome to the show, Mr. Brian.
Nice to be here, man. Thanks for having me. I've been watching this show, enjoying this show. It's nice to be on the show.
Well, hey, you know what? This is a perfect time to bring you on the show, because as we start going through these phases and everybody starts going through different phases, we start to actually see what's happening in the country and what's happening throughout the country.
Yeah.
Things are coming back online. So everybody from sports to entertainment is trying to figure out what the hell we're going to do and how is this going to work. So I'm just glad to have you, you know, as a director, executive director and founder of Step Africa, which is one of the leading largest, African-American dance companies, to be on the show to talk about how people are going to see entertainment moving in the future. How are you guys affected and such? So we're going to get some more people online, let people come on, and then we'll get into the discussion and everything. But you're in D.C., right?
Yeah, I'm in Washington, D.C., man. I've been here ever since I left New York when they shut Broadway down.
Okay.
So I was there when that happened, and then hung around for like the first weekend, and just saw it go from New York that I love to a vacant Times Square.
I know.
I've been in DC ever since. But I'm glad to hear you start to see it bounce back. That's good.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about it bouncing back is that, you know, we're in phase 2 now. So that's al fresco, as they call it, outdoor dining.
Yeah.
See, they're taking the streets over now. You have to apply for sidewalk, you know, in the streets to extend your restaurant. So it's just a lot of people in the streets, so which is very interesting. So welcome to the show, Mr. Brian Williams, founder and executive director of Step Africa. Let's just get into it. You're a native Houstonian.
Yes, sir.
Graduated from Howard University.
All day.
One and only.
All day.
A member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, Beta chapter in spring of 1989. And while living in South Africa, which is very exciting because I was in South Africa. I think that's where I got COVID too, in South Africa. That's another story.
Okay.
Started really exploring the art of stepping and everything. So why don't you explain to everybody what stepping is?
Right. So, you know, stepping, I mean, most of the Howard folks will know this, but stepping is an art form created by African-American fraternities and sororities. And I first got introduced to the art form when I pledged. Well, actually, when I walked on campus at Howard University. You know, I'm sure everybody remembers, those who are Howard graduates, or really any HBCU graduate would know that the Yard on Fridays used to be the place that the fraternity sororities would come out and celebrate this art form of stepping and, you know, bring it to the people. So I was attracted to the form immediately. And in stepping, you know, Step Africa defines it as a percussive polyrhythmic art form that expresses love and pride in these organizations. So I was fascinated from the moment I saw it on Howard's campus.
Okay. how did it all come about where you thought, hey, this is a great idea and this is something that I could do and become basically a dance company?
I tell you, it's an interesting evolution. So when I pledged fraternity and learned how to step as a part of that process, I knew then I was like, I was intrigued by stepping as an art form, but a lot of folks didn't really know where it came from, where it was started. So I was like, why is this thing so popular, such a part of our culture? But we, the people who created it, don't have a clear sense of its origins, our connection, and African American history, our American life. So that kind of made me right then to start doing a little more research.
Okay.
Fast forward, when I graduated from Howard, my first job was I moved to Johannesburg. So I moved to Lesotho, a small country surrounded by South Africa. And
right.
I first got the idea for Step
Africa. Okay. And then when you were in South, what drew you to South Africa? Why did you move to South Africa in the first place?
Well, I don't know if you know, I'm a School of Business graduate.
Right.
But I decided pretty early when I was graduating that I was not going to do the corporate thing.
Okay.
So I didn't interview for any jobs. All I did was apply for one fellowship to take me over to Southern Africa. So it was a fellowship called International Foundation for Education and Self-Help. Had this really cool fellowship program. So they basically paid me to go live and work in Africa. So I was assigned to Southern Africa for a year. And that one trip, changed my whole life.
Oh, okay. And now with your dance company, you guys do education with the kids. Y'all provide a summer school, summer camp.
Mm-hmm.
With all of that right now, is all of that still going on? What are y'all doing? Is that canceled? Where are y'all in that process?
Right. Well, so I'll tell you, so just kind of give a story. South Africa has been around for 25 years. It's our 25th year.
Right.
I started it 6 months after. I was actually living in South Africa. I was in Johannesburg 6 months before the election of Nelson Mandela. So I was there when Nelson Mandela was running around campaigning to become president, of a free and democratic South Africa. So the energy in the country was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I met some artists there in Johannesburg who were from Soweto, and told them about this idea I had to create a festival that would bring stepping for the first time ever, we were to the continent of Africa.
Okay.
Called it Step Africa. It was a Step Africa International Cultural Festival.
Right.
So I got with these artists, and we created this model, this 2-week festival that we would do in Johannesburg and Soweto, in the township of Soweto, for all those who've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Months after President Mandela's election. So December 1994, I came back to the DC, got some of the frat brothers and a couple of young ladies to join us for the first ever festival in December 1994, the Step Africa International Cultural Festival. And that's what kind of led to the creation of a dance company that we are now.
Got it. It's funny. My sister did Mandela's tour in 1994 when he left South Africa and came to America. She was responsible for his tour. She directed.
Oh, when he came over, when he I remember I was in DC. Yeah, was that after he was elected or before?
When he got out, before he was
elected. He was first released from Robben Island.
First release, yeah. And then she came over, Rita, and he went to South Africa, went to Detroit, because I was in Ohio. I met them in Detroit, and I met him in Detroit, and did an 8-city tour while he was over here and everything like that. So it was great. So you guys had just kicked off your, what was it, your 20th anniversary? 25th anniversary, excuse me.
Yeah.
25th anniversary. You started here in New York. You started before, but you were at the Victory Theater here in New York in March, where I met a lot of your board of directors. And then all of a sudden, COVID happened and everything got shut down. So how did that happen? Where were you in that process? What happened there?
Well, this pandemic has been like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Performing artists all over the country. You spend all your time. I'd like to say we specialize, artists and arts organizations and dance companies, specialize in social gathering. That's what we do. Is we find creative ways to bring the people together to celebrate culture and whatnot. And Step Africa had just created a brand new work called Drum Folk. That was already I've been on before. I was on a 10-city tour of the country. We had 4, and we were in New York for 3 weeks off Broadway at this beautiful theater at 42nd and 7th. And we were rolling. We had a great New York Times feature, and whatnot. And then COVID hit, and in a matter of seconds, it was all gone.
Wow.
It was all gone. I mean, I remember being at the theater on Wednesday before the theater shut down on a Thursday night, 5 o'clock. And we had a school performance, and we had every show was sold out. We had like 500 kids, and only like 100 showed up. And I was like, this is weird. What's going on? They were starting to shut down, and not go out. Later that evening, theater closed, and every show in the city was shut down.
Wow. So from as you being the founder, of a troupe, and how many people are in the dance company?
So Step Africa has 14 full-time artists.
Okay.
We're the largest African-American arts organization in Washington, D.C., and the largest employer of artists of color full-time, right? Providing full-time work to artists is very, very challenging. All across the country. So we're very honored to be able to provide full-time artists jobs to 14 artists here.
Yeah, I used to sit on the board of Ronald K. Brown, which is the Evidence Dance Company here.
Yes.
And so I know the complexities of a dance company. Everything.
Good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, providing health care, making sure people are protected, having full-time salaries, the whole 9 yards. It's a lot of work. So right now, your guys have been out of work for 3 months, 90 days.
Yeah.
How are you guys managing that? Did you guys get grants? Are you working with PPP? Walk us through that process right now, because there are a lot of dance companies that are out here that we're looking for entertainment, from sports to, dance, cultural events, everything that you name. We are looking for what is going to happen next. So how are you sustaining, the troupe, the company together and making it work?
Well, I'll tell you, man, I mean, actually, good to hear about your board service. I mean, Step Africa has an amazing board of directors. We'll talk about that later. So I'm glad to hear that you did that, because I love Ronald K. Brown Evidence. I love his company. And they need, really, dance companies all across the country, Philadelphia, Dallas Black Dance Theater, Cleo Parker Robinson, so many.
Right.
The support of people like yourself in order to survive. So for Step Africa, when COVID hit, we were in shock, because we basically we all of a sudden saw a whole year that was planned out disappear. We've lost over $1 million.
Wow.
Step Africa has an annual budget of about $2.5 million a year, making the largest Black dance companies in the world, right? Which is crazy that at a $2.5 million budget with that dominant, right? The largest, of course, is Ailey with a $35 million budget, whole different stratosphere, right?
Right.
But when COVID hit, we see our whole tour just shut down. So we had to make a decision. How do we survive this? And for any artist, any company, you have to figure out how to cut expenses to make it through. So we had to immediately go to a furlough.
Wow.
As a business decision, we had to put some of our artists, all of our artists, on the furlough, and some of our employees as well went down to a skeleton staff, just figure it out. But then what I was very proud about, I think I have a really smart arts administrative team. We were able to cut that furlough short to only 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Because we got the much talked about PPP loan, allowed us to bring our artists back. So unlike a lot of companies who've not been able to keep their artists employed, I'm really proud to say that Step Africa has been able to keep providing work to our artists. And that's been our main goal is how do we take care of the artists? Because, there's a lot of things we'd be worried about, especially this pandemic of structural racism that we've known about forever.
Right.
We focused on, with laser focus, how do we take care of the artists? And I think we've done a very good job. So they're all full-time employed at this moment.
Do you have grant writers on your staff?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're
Were you
talking.
able to
No,
secure
I'm kidding.
any grants? Were you able to secure any grants and stuff of
Oh,
that
yeah.
nature as well? You
Yes, so
know,
South Africa has an administrative team of about 5 people. I'm the founding director. I have a deputy director. I have a director of institutional giving. I have an arts education director, and I have a company manager / marketing manager, right? And I have 14 full-time artists. So to kind of give a picture of what the organization looks like. Everybody's full-time, everybody's W-2, whatever that means.
right,
So I do have a dedicated person on the staff who focuses on grant making and writing grants and grant stewardship.
right. Okay,
So important because for arts organizations, the earned revenue has gone out the window.
right,
So the only opportunity we have is to either get grants or donations from individuals from across the country. So that's really, really important. So if anyone out there watching, think about your arts organization. We got to think about healthcare. We got to think about people eating, but we also need to think about how to preserve these arts organizations to celebrate and maintain our culture.
right,
How's that happen?
right. So what have you done differently now that you guys are basically on a hiatus for some time now? What have you thought? What has this done for you thinking strategically moving forward on how you conduct business to keep business still coming in? I mean,
Right.
revenue still coming in. Are you looking at doing things virtually now? What has, how anything changed there?
Well, first things first, man, we're not on hiatus.
Okay.
That's what's so funny about it. We are figuring, everybody talks about the pivot, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the word. That's probably the word of 2020, the pivot.
The pivot, right.
So we're trying to figure out that pivot. So just this past Friday for Juneteenth, we made our first, we put our first step into the digital platform.
Okay.
Right. So South Africa produced a 30-minute online program that was our first attempt at trying to see how we make this pivot. Can we succeed digitally?
Right.
2,000 people watching live, over 17,000 views as of today. So I think it shows that now we just need to focus on doing that until we can get back to what we do best.
Okay.
And that's for artists across the country, man. I mean, everybody, all these online classes, master classes, company rehearsals.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's trying to become TV producers. So, it's quite a challenge, but we're trying to figure it out to stay present.
Right, right. Did you have a lot of content taped before?
No.
Wow.
And, and that was a huge deal. Let's talk about people who were ready. Like, who was ready for this were Alan Ailey.
Right.
That's probably the only Black dance company I know in the country that was really ready to start releasing amazing content once this thing hit. Because what it taught me is that going forward, I have to capture every performance that we do.
Right.
Capture it with one camera for archival.
Right.
Have to be a 3 to 5 camera shoot, because that's what Ailey had. Really high-end quality footage, because a one camera shoot is not going to be attractive for the medium.
Right.
That's been an eye opener to me. This digital platform will be with us forever, but for any artists, we're going to have to consider this digital platform a little more aggressively.
Right. So when you think about the content that you created for Juneteenth, you guys have been able to work together, keep everybody, I guess, safe. So you have metrics in place in order to continue to dance and to continue to stay in shape. Yeah. Because that's one of my next questions. How do everybody stay in shape when, can't go to the gym, can't exercise, all that kind of stuff? Are they still working together as a troupe, or are they doing things individually? What's the whole, give us the day in the life of a dancer today for you guys?
Well, that's a good question, man, because, for the first 2 months, I think, I know the artists, and these are all young people, right? Under the age of 30. Some of these, I have several Howard graduates that are in the company, that are dancers in the company. And when COVID hit, these were artists who were really at the top of their game in terms of They have been performing all year. They have been rehearsing nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
Bodies were incredible. You know, they were like ready to go.
Right.
When this hit, and all of a sudden you couldn't rehearse, and you had to kind of shift to like an individual maintenance and self-care, you
Mm-hmm.
affected them. I mean, it's going to be hard to maintain the kind of shape that they were in without the company gathering. So now we had to kind of rely on just self-motivation, you know, encourage them.
Right.
Recently, we've started doing some online company rehearsals where they stretch together online. And now we're starting to rehearse outside, which, you know, it's safer to be outside,
Mm-hmm.
socially distant. You're not breathing, you know, you're not in a captured space.
Right.
We just started that this week. And it's an attempt to respect the environment, be socially distant, gather very, very safely. And, you know, and now we're starting to look at establishing more protocols so that we can protect our artists and make sure that they are good throughout this. And I know that every arts organization in the country is dealing with this.
Right. Right. I saw they did in the Spanish ballet. They did not ballet, but the Spanish opera. They just did a concert, and they put 200 flowers in the seats of individuals. Right. You know, which was a homage to the healthcare workers, which I thought was a really great idea.
That was a very good idea.
You know, it was brilliant, and it looked beautiful. So hey,
it did.
What you gonna do?
I was thinking about that. You know, I was like, I think I posted that because if anybody hadn't seen that, it's a wild image. Just
right.
Auditorium full of plants.
Yeah. Yeah, to say the least. Hey,
right, plants. Right.
Are you thinking about moving forward with, you know, most of your events were indoors. So right now, can you do outdoor events? You thought about that? Thought about doing amphitheaters or anything like that? That really, it works with you and the stepping and the sound.
Yeah.
You know, are cities you think would be open to that? Would you be open to that?
Well, it's a couple of things. So you should check out the video we just created.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was all filmed outside.
Okay.
So the only place we can perform is outside. So we basically went to the National Mall and we filmed at Lincoln Memorial. We filmed at the Reflecting Pool, at the World War II Memorial. So it creates these really beautiful imagery, and the artists are outside in that environment. And that kind of opened us up to some possibilities because, you know, DC is an amazing city.
Yeah.
It can find some really unique backdrops in which to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Learned a lot through that. We also were really excited to go and film at the newly created Black Lives Matter Plaza. Right. So one of our artists, who's actually from New York, did a solo right in the middle of Black Lives Matter Plaza.
Okay.
That kind of opened up some other ideas too. You know, we're out there with the protesters. Kind of became this interesting moment because there are people out there protesting, and you know, it was a very wild scene. And then we went out there and just performed for the protesters in a sense, and captured it quite beautifully. And that's a part of our Juneteenth virtual celebration as well. So check.
Okay. I will. And I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to do that beforehand.
Yeah.
I will definitely catch that and add to your numbers. And we'll put it up. We have it going across the bottom of the screen right here of the virtual celebration, where you can find it on Facebook or your YouTube page at stephafrica.org. So with the guys participating and everything, performing and doing spontaneous things to keep everybody active and engaged, the morale of your dancers, are they low? Where are they? You know, how are they feeling about things right now?
You know, we've been monitoring that from the beginning. We monitored it very aggressively when the COVID first hit, right? That's where a lot of, as young artists, as young people, I mean, you know, and look, I'm gonna tell you something. All the things we do, South Africa tours all over the world, over 60 countries, you know, thousands and thousands of kids that we serve, maybe hundreds of thousands at this point. But at the end of the day, I feel like I'm an employer. I create work for artists, and I created space for a tradition that before South Africa was here, nobody was thinking about having stepping in their halls.
Mm-hmm.
Center would not have stepping in their halls, but now, you know, they ask us to perform there all the time, you know, and other places around the world.
Mm.
Watching the morale of the artists was really important because, you I think people were concerned. What are our jobs? Will we be able to perform again? That was around March when we were really in the throes of this April. Now,
Right.
I think people have adjusted. I think it's still a transition we must go through.
Mm-hmm.
DC's going to phase 2, but we're ready to hit this next phase of Step Africa.
Right.
It's a digital platform, and we're working on some new content that we'll be releasing soon.
Well, a lot of entertainers, they said this year and next year or later this year in the early part of 2021 is going to be a year of full of music because everybody's in the studio creating.
Right.
Zoom, that a lot of creatives are in the lab,
in the shed,
coming up, really getting a chance to really think about what it is they need to do and how they need to do things differently. Are you seeing that from your creative director? Are you getting a sense that, they are really like, wow, I got some really good stuff coming on here?
Well, the challenge with dance will be interesting is individually people are creating, but you can't put it on the bodies until you can gather safely.
Okay.
Right. But I do feel that there's an enthusiasm for my artists in particular to create for this new platform. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the video we just produced for Juneteenth, what was interesting about that is it was filmed. Some parts were filmed by artists, some of my dancers, directed by my dancers, and performed by them as well. So they're able to use other parts of their other skill sets that we haven't had to use before.
Right.
So stretching artistically, and I'm excited about that because I feel that we're working on potentially doing I'll announce it here, a web series.
Wow, that sounds good.
Yeah, that will produce internally.
I like that.
Yeah. So I'm actually kind of intrigued by what's going to happen with that.
People need content. I mean, people want entertainment, and people are tired of looking at Netflix and Hulu, Prime Video. They're like, okay, that's great, but you know what? Can I go to an event? Can I get what can I see different that's going to add to something to my to my stimuli to stimulate me a little bit? So
we saw that with the Juneteenth thing, man. I'll never forget. When we first had the idea for it, we thought we'd have maybe 50 to 100 people at most. But then, Juneteenth was all of a sudden on everybody's mind.
Right.
And for most of the country had never even heard. I'll never forget seeing it on CNN. CNN had put Juneteenth at the very top of their news feed. And I don't think that's ever happened before.
Right.
Right. But that's great. That's great for us. It's great for the culture.
Right. No.
Now we understand more about the holiday. We'll celebrate it more intensely.
And you being from Texas, so Juneteenth is special to you.
I've been celebrating Juneteenth my whole life.
Yeah.
My great grandmother celebrated Juneteenth.
Wow.
This is a day that means a lot to Texans, of course.
Right. So what do you think from a performance perspective? Think Broadway, think, Rita Stage in DC, where you go, where you're touring, all of that. What is that looking like now? Are you a part of a consortium of anything? Yeah. And I'm not talking about the reopening of DC. We'll get to that. But are you a consortium with other dancers, dance troupes, dance companies trying to think about what it is y'all can do from a safety standpoint in order to still entertain people?
Well, look, yes. And me personally, I'm connected to so many artists across the country, and right now everybody's just trying to figure it out, man. The sound shifts so much. It's hard to get your feet on the ground. I remember this Ntozake Shange poem back in the day talking about I can't get my feet on the ground. And I feel like a lot of artists, especially dancers, feel that way. The virtual rehearsals are just not us. It's just it's not what we signed up for. Clearly, no one signed up for this. But so I'm talking to a lot, and I will continue talking. I think we can sometimes talk too much. At this point, people are zoomed out. We're ready to. So I've kind of stopped doing that and kind of gone internally with my process right now. Also, keeping my ear to the ground.
Right.
I'm a member of the International Association of Blacks in Dance. That's a great organization that brings dancers of color all across the country together. So I'm a part of different associations that kind of keep me in touch. I talk to a lot of the leading theaters in the country, like the leaders of Arena Stage and the Shakespeare Theater and whatnot, in DC, about what's going on. And everybody is really confused right now because nobody knows when we can gather again, you know?
Right. And then also
in the theater.
Right. And then it's also kind of hard mentally for dancers when you have all these creative or gig workers, if you want to call them, for a company not like yourself. At least you're able to work these guys and keep them on the payroll. But a lot of creatives, you know, they do other odd jobs like bartend and serve, and if they don't work full time for a dance company and stuff like that. So I can only imagine, you know, them looking at entertainment in their craft as something that they really don't know if it's going to all come back together again or anything like that.
And you know what I would say is that's why it's important for, you know, the community at large to support relief funds for dancers, for artists in general, to employ artists wherever you can. I mean, all this virtual church going on, I hope that they're employing artists to be a part of their services.
Right.
Zoom calls can incorporate artists into the musicians, of course, because we've got to find a way to create, to keep these artists alive and doing, so that when we come back, we can still have a vibrant community of artists that can create work.
Right.
I gotta say, I think we're going to have to really petition hard. I know these unemployment benefits have been significant, and they have helped people bridge this. You know, I think that our community across the board needs to advocate that those need to be extended.
Of course.
Support people through this process until we get back on our feet, because for the performing arts industry in particular, if you're not part of a company that can find a way to make it work, there's no way for you to generate revenue right now. I don't even.
Do you think we're going to not see some of the dance companies survive this?
I mean, I think it's possible. I would hope not. I would think that. I think it's easier. The bigger ones will make it because they have huge budgets, maybe an endowment. The smaller ones are so nimble; they don't have full-time dancers anyway. They're probably project-to-project company, so their expenses are so low that they can kind of be flexible and adaptable and figure it out.
Okay.
Middle, right? That's a challenge.
Right.
You might have a building. You might own a facility. You might own a studio. How do you sustain those payments in those times? How do you make it through that? South Africa, luckily, does not have its own building, but I do have a large payroll.
Right. Okay.
That are really in danger because you can't be that flexible unless you just shut down shop.
Right. So
if you do that, how do you come back? You know?
Right. No, it's true, because everybody will go and try to either go join another dance company or do totally different, and then you have to start your whole troop back over again. You sit on the reopening with the mayor of DC, the reopening committee there. What has that experience been like?
You know, that's been amazing, actually. It was an honor to be selected to serve that, you know, because, you know, as an artist and as an arts organization, I wanted to make sure our voices were heard in that room when they were trying to make decisions about the phases and when theaters can open, when artists could rehearse. So it was an excellent process, you know, led by my mayor. You know, our Mayor Muriel Bowser is, you know, she's an incredible advocate for Black folk, incredible advocate for DC residents, regardless, you know, for Washington, DC. And she's really made great choices and kind of guided us through this. So I think we're doing well. So serving that committee was a great opportunity.
Okay. So what's next for your dance company? Are you going to be able to do anything with the kids, your programming and school education and summer camps like you do yearly? Are you going to be able to do that? What's happening with your festival in Johannesburg and all of that?
Well, let me start with the young people. You know, South Africa is a leader in the use of stepping as an educational and motivational tool for young children. And, you know, you go to our website, you can find out more about what we do with young people. But summer camp, we created like the world's first summer camp dedicated to stepping.
Right.
And I don't know, have you seen our exhibit, Charlie?
Yep.
Yeah, I was just actually talking to the guy who produced that. We have this exhibit in the museum, which kind of speaks to the work that we do with young people. That
Yes.
in the museum is modeled after our arts education programs.
And just for everybody out there, he's talking about the National African American Museum in DC. So if you go in there, just to be clear.
Right. The museum.
Yeah, the museum.
The museum.
Yes, the museum.
Yeah, we're on the second floor in the Explore More Gallery. It's this huge exhibit. It's an interactive where you can actually walk up and learn how to step with Step Africa.
Right.
So I mean, that's been an honor to have that. We've been there since the museum opened. But so we have this program called Summer Steps with Step Africa. It's our summer camp. We've been doing it for 12 years. Usually popular, about 150 plus students every year. This year, we're going virtual.
Okay.
So we're trying to figure that out. I can't, Step Africa is very dedicated to serving students and the next generation. So we're going to figure it out. And it's going to be an excellent experience for them,
Do your kids have the technology to be able to do it at home? Because that's always a problem too.
That's been an issue, period, hasn't it?
Yeah. That's a big issue. When kids were, when they had to flip from, in class to, doing school remotely, a lot of the African American kids did not have computers at home.
I know.
So that was a detriment to our community.
Or the Wi-Fi, right?
Or even Wi-Fi, yeah, correct.
The strong to access it. So I mean, that's something that we're looking at, and we have to deal with that like long term. We make sure that we serve all of our community. Step Africa has been like really aggressive about serving our entire community. With performances in Washington D.C., we go to each and every ward, schools all across, public, private, doesn't matter. This digital platform, I got to make sure that we're still reaching our community. That wants us across the board,
Right.
Like we can't just perform for those who can afford it or those who have high-speed internet.
Right.
Make sure. And so, I mean, we got to figure that out. I mean, it's a work in progress, bro.
You got to talk to your mayor.
I know. I mean, but she's on that because the digital divide is a big thing that she's focused on. She's trying to figure out how do we get access to all people. Like it's almost like internet access is a right now.
It should be. I mean, at the end of the day,
like a utility.
Yeah, at the end of the day, broadband should be. I mean, you go to Europe, everywhere you go now, everybody has access to Wi-Fi. That's just And basically, I was on a program probably about a month ago, talking about if Google, Apple, and Microsoft got together, every kid in the United States could have 8.9 computers in their home. So there's no reason why a kid should not have a computer, and we should not have broadband in order to just make the level playing field for education, right there. How's your board been with this? Speak to that.
I have an amazing board of directors, bro. How long were you on Ronald K. Brown's board?
For 4 years.
Excellent. So I have a board of about 17 and 19 individuals, right? And for all those who might be out there, you wanted to do some board service, I want you to consider Step Africa. Because we need the community to support. I mean, the board's support. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, look, I'm like an expert on organizations of color and what challenges we face. Having strong boards is a big part of that, Charlie.
Yes.
Because you need them to be advocates for the organization. You need them to give financial to the organization. And you need them to get others to give financial to the organization. This is not the Deacons board. Right? It's a fundraising board. So, the Deacons also raise money. Let's be clear. But our board is a fundraising board, and they've been critical to us. When COVID hit, I started meeting with the board like every week. We were on the phone. All right, what do we do? What's our next step? All right, what does this sound like? We got to cancel the gala. How do we still get people to give money? It's a huge challenge, but business is hard. Business is a challenge, and the business of the arts is equally challenging. So I've just been kind of just navigating it, man. And the board has been with us. We're looking to expand that board. So if there are some people you may know, I mean, I might need to recruit you for the board, bro.
Wait until after this week, see if what happens on this election.
Okay. Deal.
Yeah, if that goes up, then I'm out. If that goes down, then maybe I'm in.
All right.
That's
I want you to stay.
Yeah. So that being said, also too, I mean, I know what it was. I mean, it took us a good 2 years to make sure that we had healthcare for all of the dancers at that time, which is key. And that is just when Obama was coming into office and we were working on Obamacare and all that kind of stuff. So that all kind of fell into place right at the right time during my tenure when I was on Evidence Dance. Yeah, so it's really good there. Are investors, or based on this whole Black Lives Matter movement, racism in America, you know, there are a lot of people looking at a lot of initiatives and saying where they can give money to and stuff. Yeah. Have you been able to, you know, extend an olive branch to say, hey, look at us, look at what we're doing?
Yeah. Look, man, without question, let me tell you, these young protesters, these young millennials that have been out here making it happen, you know, I think that they have pushed the country forward in a way, I mean, I'm excited about.
Mm-hmm.
And doors will have to open, you know. I mean, it's so funny how, to some extent, I, even in the creation of my business, and for 25 years I've been running, I've had to accept a degree of structural inequity and racism that I knew was going to affect the capacity of the organization to grow.
Right.
Environment. Now it seems that we're kind of pushing that, we're kind of breaking through that a little bit. And I hope what I will see as a result is more investments from corporations into our work that would not have considered us before.
Mm-hmm.
And not just for myself, of course, but for artists and arts organizations all across the country. You know, like it used to be so funny that when I would ask sometimes as a fundraiser, someone, they might say, well, call Oprah. Everybody wants you to call Oprah. Right. But you know, there's a lot of people that can support and give.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they'll start to step up and keep the nonprofit sector alive and well.
Right.
Because we simply do not exist without individual donors and grants and these kind of support systems. So I think Black organizations across the country, organizations of color, should see a change with that.
Okay, I hope so. You? What is some of the other challenges that you face as an organization? And then also, too, Pam said here, how can we support financially? And I presume give a donation or get on the board. Yeah. You know, if you go to their website, they do have donation. You have link.
Let me break that down.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for that, Pam. So first things first, you can go on Step Africa's website, www.stepafrica.org, and you can make a donation. And you can know that your donations to Step Africa will help to keep artists employed, artists of color employed, and allow us to serve and do this work that we've been doing for 25 years well into the future. If you want to take it a step further and not just donate individually, but get more involved with the organization, we are looking for amazing board members who can give to the organization and get others to support. You know this, Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big part of board membership. But all of this on our website, www.stepafrica.org. I love to engage people who might want to get involved.
Yeah.
Hey, look, we need to get more involved in supporting these organizations in the first place.
You know what? One thing, I was talking to a friend of mine today, and we were talking about art and in the art world, you know, and the undervalued. We're so undervalued. But we provide such a great service, and everybody always looks toward us for entertainment.
Right.
When it comes down to the equity or the structural, being able to maintain our organizations, we fall short. We don't get the donations, or we don't get the, you know, what the necessary things that we need in order to survive. And we have to do better at that. did you see over the years by just making sure, because what happened with Evidence, it was all about who they had at the head of the board in order to these things, to move things through.
Let's break it down.
Yeah.
Let's break it down a little bit, because I think this is an interesting conversation in terms of the viability and structure of organizations of color.
Yes.
Let's talk about the dance world right now. So in the Black dance world, Ailey is the king. Okay. Ailey is also the king of dance world in general. Few organizations are bigger than Ailey. I mean, there are much, ABT, probably, I don't know how much bigger than Ailey, but I have those stats, but Ailey is the biggest in Black dance. When you leave Ailey's at 35 million, guess what the next largest one is?
10 million.
Less.
5.
Dancing of Harlem.
Wow.
Right? And Dancing of Harlem is probably hovering between 5 and 10. Right?
Okay.
So you see this huge drop in numbers between, that's $25 million.
Yeah.
$5 million in capacity. Once you hit Dancing of Harlem, which is a 50-year plus institution that's still in this kind of tenuous area, then you go to Dallas Black Dance Theater, about 4-point-something million. Alonzo King, 4 million, something like that. So it starts to get very, very, it goes very, very quickly. And then Step After, 2.5 million. And then a lot of Black dance companies will be under the $1 million mark.
Okay.
Trying to make it, trying to survive. So we got to figure out how to strengthen these organizations that employ our artists and that represent our culture. And we need more than one.
Right.
More than one.
The Ailey situation is backed by Citibank. Big time.
Yeah.
So they got big corporate sponsors, big corporate dollars. They're based here in New York. They can go after that money, which I think a lot of people have to do. Also, too, I think what has to happen is you have to have a mentality of a corporate mindset on your board in order for you to be able to bring in and look at the structural needs. And you have to have a creative director, too, that understands exactly it's about show biz, and you need to understand the business part of the show, okay?
Right.
And if you don't, you will not be able to survive. And I think that's what probably happens with a lot of the dance companies and stuff. But we are totally needed. Or what's your demographics when you look at your sales and when people are coming to your shows? Are you looking at 50-50? Is it mostly white, mostly Black?
Yeah.
You quote unquote entertaining, and who's your audience?
Luckily, Step After is a very diverse audience with a very diverse board, right? But when you look at our audiences in DC, primarily it's 60% African American, 60 to 65% African American, 30 to 35% other cultures, white, probably more than likely white, and then some other cultures as well, right? And that's good because we want to, we're here to serve the community. And I love seeing our audience reflect what America looks like, But I love that it also is a very strong Black audience because that's the culture from which Step In is created. Country, it can change. It just depends upon the demographics of where we are. We're very blessed though, man. We just recently did this tour of the Ukraine. Of course, it's not a lot of us in the Ukraine, but it was packed across the country.
Yes.
And we had an amazing time performing there. And wherever we go, we try to serve culture. Step Africa's been on all the continents performing, and with the exception of Australia, but we're working on that.
Okay. Are y'all big in Europe?
I wouldn't say we're big in Europe. We've performed in Europe. It's not a huge spot for us. We've been there frequently. We've had a lot of success in Southeastern Europe.
Okay. I was about to say London because they're very soulful. Paris.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they haven't jumped on board and got on board and stuff of that nature. Yeah.
I'm gonna start working on that, man.
You need to work on that.
I need to get that market going.
Yeah. So in closing, because we have to, because we've been here for a minute.
Yes, sir.
And great conversation with you, and thanks for joining the show. What do you see for the future of Step Africa? What do you have planned right now? I know you said you're talking digitally. What else is happening with you guys this summer? And do you think you're going to be able to pick up your tour schedule in the fall if things work out?
Well, two things. First things first, I would definitely follow Step Africa go check out our Juneteenth virtual celebration. It's only up until Friday at midnight. If you like it, make a donation. Check that out. See what we're doing digitally. If you've never seen the company, check that video out, and then hopefully get to know us better. We still do the summer camp, so we'll be focused on that. We'll be focused on creating more digital programming, but quite honestly, Charlie, until we can come back onto the stage, you will find us right here. You'll find us on Facebook. You'll find us on YouTube, and you'll find us on our website making things happen. So I'm looking forward to I'm actually excited about this, man. And look, if there's anybody in your audience that really understands this technology, like a TV producer, at me, because I love to talk to them about making great TV, since that's what we're trying to do right now.
Right, with all the content and everything that you guys need to do.
Right.
Well, when are y'all scheduled to come back? Are y'all part of phase what in DC? Phase 3, phase 4?
Phase 3. Okay,
and what do you think the timing is on that?
I would say August.
Wow. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Earliest, if we're lucky.
If you're lucky. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, all right, Mr. Williams. I appreciate it. All of your information is down here on the ticker to see the Juneteenth virtual celebration on Facebook and YouTube at stepafrica.org. You can donate. You can give to all of that. You guys who are tuned in tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the impact of what's happening in the fashion world. We got fashion maven Tamika White that's going to be on tomorrow, and she's a fashion media mogul. She knows
love it. I'm gonna check that out.
And what's going on, but it's gonna be it's unique because you got to think about everything from the fashion standpoint. When going into a department store now, you can't do beauty on the first level anymore because you can't be in people's face and all that kind of stuff. So big discussion. But thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, bro. Thanks for having me, man.
We'll talk to you soon, and good luck with all your dance company, and hope you wish you well. All right, my brother.
Right, take care, bro. Be good.
Let the sun shine. Let the